Hello, everyone. It's Deb Floros here for Jesse James Beads, and today I'm making a fantastic bracelet with the Crystal Cave bead mix. I fell in love with this bead mix the minute I saw it. It's one of the Color Trends bead mixes, and I think this one is sort of a non-color color. It's pretty much a mix of crystal clear beads, which I believe is one of the greatest ways to design because it goes with everything and accents everything, and seasons don't really matter when you talk about something that's clear. Clear beads and crystal beads have been very popular. I think they're frankly a staple in jewelry making now. So this is a great addition to your collection of beads, and you can make tons of projects with this bead mix. So I'm going to show you what I pulled out. So I actually pulled out my beads already that I'm going to use for this one. So I'm going to be using two of these adorable rhinestone metal beads. I'm going to be using the two faceted coins. These are absolutely stunning. And actually, I'm using four. I'm sorry. I'm using four of these rhinestone beads. And I'm using four of these faceted rondelles, which are divine. And then I'm also using four of these fluted glass beads. And these are probably one of my favorites. Whenever I see these in a bead mix, I'm like, oh, I love those. They're so much fun. So those are all of the beads from the kit that you're going to use. And you're also going to pull out one of these jewelry findings. These are typically used for chandelier earrings, but we're going to do a little bit something different with this. So make sure you pull out one of those if you want to make this piece. And I'm actually going to put my beads back into my little container here so they don't roll all over the place. And I added from my stash some size 15 seed beads. I like seed beads to add dimension to a project, and I like 15s because they're small, so they really add a definition between the beads. So you can use whatever size you'd like. Or you could not use them at all because this bracelet is beautiful. These beads are beautiful without seed beads as well. Note though, if you're not going to use seed beads, you'll need to add additional beads from the Crystal Cave bead mix. So I also pulled a lobster claw clasp. And I'm going to need some beading wire. So in this case, I'm going to be using the 7-strand Beadalon, pretty standard stuff, and some Beadalon #2 crimp tubes. And I'm also going to be using some French wire. So what is French wire? This is wire that's typically used with knotting cord and used at the ends so that that cording is not exposed and can't unravel. This is a 0.8, also from Beadalon. And I use this to cover my beading wire at the ends of projects. I saw this done by a designer years and years ago, and I adopted the practice, and I love the effect that this creates for kind of finishing a jewelry piece. So I've got some of that ready to go. And I'm also going to need a bead stopper. I'm going to need a crimp tool and a cutter. So those are the tools. Very easy project. So I like to work making things right from the spool of wire. So I'm just going to set my spool off to the side, and I'm going to string on beads. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to string on the large crystal rondelle. Actually, let me move this over this way. And then I'm going to put on 3 seed beads. And, you know, these seed beads are tiny. I've gotten used to them because I do use them so much in my designs. So you may not enjoy it, but see how that adds a nice little definition between the beads. I put 2 on at this end. And then I'm going to use 3 seed beads between each bead. So I won't repeat that 100 times. I'm then going to take the fluted bead and I'm going to push on from this side the larger end first. And you can do that either way, actually. I'm trying to go for a really symmetrical look here for this bracelet, but this bead mix lends itself to do whatever you want, like grab whatever beads and just go for it. Here's this crystal rhinestone die. So here's what we've got so far. I just absolutely adore this bead mix. The color trends are fantastic because if you want to stay in the same color family, you've got the ability to create something really cool. I'm putting on my second flute again with the larger end down, and putting on my seed beads. Probably not the most exciting thing to watch me put seed beads on this bracelet, but now we've got our second rhinestone on this side. My beading wire is getting a little squirrely on me. I also find, personally that sometimes putting seed beads on a project or working with seed beads helps me to really focus. I don't know. I'm going to add that coin bead. Okay, so I've got half my bracelet strung. Now the second half. So we're just going to start with our last bead in that side. So this is our focal, these 2 larger beads. And I love that they look like maybe eyes are staring at me. And here goes our crystal. I was saying the color trends mixes are really great. So if you want something in a colorful theme, if you want, oh, before I go on, now when you string on these fluted beads from this side, for this side of the bracelet, you're going to want to go with the thinnest part of the bead first. But if you're trying to go for a theme, maybe, it's a holiday theme or a, school colors theme or your favorite, sports team theme, those mixes make it really easy to do that. And if you pick up enough of them, you can mix them and match them and create some fun things. All right. Both of your little fluted beads are going to go on the smallest end. So they're almost done stringing. And this is just such an ethereal bracelet, so elegant. So elegant. And the holes are a little bit big on some of these beads, so your seed beads might get sucked up into there. In fact, I think I'm going to try and swap out a couple of them because I want to try to make this as symmetrical as possible. So I've got my mix here. So let's see if these maybe have might work. Have a slightly smaller hole. Let's see what we got here. All right, let's give those a shot. I'm gonna throw this on. That does work. And if you like working with crystal beads, you are one step ahead of any design because you can add crystals to anything. All right, so that's our piece all strung. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my bead stopper. These are great tools if you don't have them. And I'm going to then cut my piece from the spool. I want to get that guy off of there. And I'm just going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab my unraveling spool of wire, and I'm actually going to move my seed beads out of the way as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our clasp on, and we're going to need that little lobster claw. We're going to use one of these, and I already did this, but you're going to want to add a small jump ring to the center loop at the bottom of this little finding. So this finding has a loop on one end and 5 loops at the bottom, intended for earrings or a little charm kind of thing, but we're going to use this as part of our clasp. So I think that's very fun. So I'm also going to need my French wire, and I'm going to need 2 crimp tubes. So I'm going to grab my crimp tubes here. Ooh, I don't need 100. I'm going to put those there. Okay. And what I want to do first is cut off a little bit of my French wire. And I don't need all of this, but I need about 1 inch. So I'm going to cut that. And this is very easy to cut with just your jewelry cutters. And I'm actually going to cut this again in half. So I fold it over in my fingers and hold it and snip it in the center. And sometimes you might not get it exactly right, or you might have a little coil that gets stuck up or gets unraveled a little bit. But I've got my 2 little pieces that I'm going to use. And this is how we're going to finish the bracelet. So I'm going to grab my end that does not have the bead stopper, and I'm going to put on my crimp tube, and then I'm going to put on my little piece of French wire. Actually do this with my left hand. And the French wire should fit nicely into your beading wire. You can actually use 49 strands or 19 strands with this as well. It works. And then I'm going to take my little finding here, and I'm going to, and oh, another tip is your French wire can fit into your crimp tube and down into your bead. So just make sure you keep your eye on it, and you're going to want to go through your crimp tube just like you normally would. And I like to go into my first bead if I can. And then I'm going to pull that tight so that it goes around my finding like that and creates a little loop for it. And then I'm going to crimp using my crimp tool. And I always give it one last squeeze for good measure. And then we're going to cut off our wire like so. Show you what that looks like. Then we're going to make the other side of our clasp. Take off your bead stopper, add your crimp, and your French wire, and then your lobster claw clasp. And most lobster claw clasps should fit nicely over the French wire. So I'm just going to put that on. And let gravity do its thing a little bit there. I'm going to pull down and push that up. And I'm going to do my crimping. Okay. Trim off my excess wire. All right. And this little jump ring there is going to be what we use to add or to attach to our lobster claw. I can get it to go. I'm using my non-dominant hand. So there we go. That is our closure. That is our beautiful Crystal Cave bracelet. As a reminder, I know I said it 100 times, but this is the bead mix I used. It's the Crystal Cave from the Jessie James Beads Color Trends. It's beautiful. All of the beads except the seed beads were used, were pulled from that bead mix. And we created an interesting clasp. You could add some dangles to this if you so desire, but I think it kind of looks like a little bit of a fan or something. Really fun clasp. And I made this in my size so that I can wear this, but you can certainly use additional beads from the mix and size it in your way. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Jessie James Beads for sharing such amazing beads, and I'll see you guys next time.